right, good morning, everybody. It's Keith Engel with TGI Sports Talk, live from East Greenbush, New York. A very dreary-looking November morning, unfortunately. Hope it's a little better where you are. I know a lot of my viewers are going to be in the Northeast, at least my live guys. We're heading towards that time of year, unfortunately. 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks till Christmas, sorry, Thanksgiving. Good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to see you here and see every broadcast. I really appreciate your dependability. Just a quick note, guys, as I say all the time, I want to thank the groups that are allowing me to share this to their pages. Some of them like to remove the content. Don't know why. It's not spam. I don't think it's self-promotion. Yes, I'd like to get more viewers for the show, but it's really relevant content to that group, I think, or I wouldn't share it. So today, we'll be sharing to the college football, the professional football groups that I belong to, and we'll be talking in depth about both of those. Again, I want to thank my guests from last Friday, Marty Appel. Marty, I did this interview with Marty earlier in the summer, late in the summer, August, and for different reasons wasn't able to get it aired, but it's getting tons of views now, and I knew it would. I'm going to start rebroadcasting or resharing, reposting, whatever term you want to use, some of my previous favorites, and I do have some groups I can share those too, like the Ron Bloomberg interview, the Mark Littell interview, which were very specific things. So we're going to start reposting some of those as we go through the coming weeks. We do have some great guests coming up too, by the way. Rex Walters, which you'll see a promo for later this morning, will be my guest next week, next Friday at 8 a.m. on TGI Sports Talk. Rex is university. He was a head coach at San Francisco and Florida Atlantic, and he was a tremendous guard for the Kansas Jayhawks back in the 90s. He helped lead them to the 93 final. He was a first-round draft pick of the New York Nets, so he had a 7 or 8 season career in the NBA. So we're going to talk a lot about the NCAA basketball season Friday, the challenges ahead with COVID and whatnot, and we'll see. So again, I thank all the groups that let me post, and all those that view there, and all of you that do view it. Again, we're getting the followers are starting to really start to move up, which is great. The views have been tremendous. So those of you that are following it, the page, TGI Sports Talk, and sharing the content, I really want to thank you very much for all that. So let's jump into the day. We're going to start, of course, like we do every Saturday, with college basketball. Or college football. Excuse me, we're not quite to basketball yet. College football. A crazy Saturday. 15 postponements due to COVID again. Some big games. Bama, LSU, Ohio State, and Maryland was postponed. A&M and Tennessee. Can't read that one. That's interesting. Auburn, Mississippi State, Cal, Arizona State, UCLA, and Cal and UCLA. Who is that? The UCLA game was postponed. We'll take a look at it in a second when we get to the schedule. They're actually playing the game today, and a lot of those games were canceled. You know, when we're talking about COVID-19 and the cancellations, these leagues that started late, the Big Ten, the Pac-12's even worse, they're going to have trouble now getting teams to get playoff consideration because, again, the NCAA did not expand their selections past 4. This would have been a perfect year to test out 8 anyway, if not 16. And these schools that can't make up games, like Ohio State, you know, they're in the top 4. They're going to be top 4. But if they have more games postponed, is it going to be fair to put them in over somebody who's got more games? We talk about this every week. So it's starting to affect significantly Ohio State. Wisconsin's obviously been affected, although they had a big win over Michigan yesterday. Just a disaster for Jim Harbaugh in Michigan right now. He blamed himself. He said yesterday the coaching stands out most amongst their skid, and who can disagree with that? They're not getting it done, and they're probably going to have some changes there, I would think. What else? COVID-related situations. Miami yesterday with a big victory at Virginia Tech. Not an easy place to play. Miami keeps themselves at least in the playoff conversation and with a chance to get to the ACC title game. They do have a loss to Clemson on their record, and if they run into them again, they'll probably struggle. I'm a Miami fan. De'Aaron King is just an electric player. College player. I don't know how well it'll transfer to the next level or if it will at all. He's not a big guy. But they had 12. They were missing 12 key players yesterday. Well, 12 players, a lot of them key players yesterday. And they almost postponed the game right up until game time. Manny Diaz said after the game. But they decided to play. The players decided they wanted to play. And again, I'm okay with the players deciding to play as long as it's not a health risk to everybody else that's participating. So, I mean, who knows if that's going to turn into a bigger issue as we go forward this coming week. New Mexico end up having the New Mexico governor said there can be no games played in the state of New Mexico. So they had to move their home game against Nevada to Las Vegas. I guess those are the big things. Again, of the postponements, 15 cancellations or postponements, 4 in the SEC, which are all postponed for the moment. They're probably going to have some problems with the LSU or Florida's games, I guess. I think they've got postponements against both LSU. Now Alabama's got a postponement, so I think the date that it may be tough for them to play both Alabama and LSU, so they may end up, with shorthanded when it comes to games. What else? Pac-12. They had 2 more games. They're canceled. Big Ten, 1 game canceled. Some other games we'll get through it when we go through the schedule, or the scores, I should say. But just a tough situation again. Some other things to point out. The Big Ten again still in disarray. Ohio State being postponed, obviously one of the better teams in the country. Going to be very hard to keep them out of the playoff. But Indiana, it's the second best team. Huge game next week. Indiana at Ohio State. Is Indiana for real at all? Yesterday they blow out Michigan State. Hard to read into that. Michigan State already had lost to Rutgers. They did beat Michigan. And they really beat Michigan for going away, really. So I don't know. Indiana, they beat Penn State, but Penn State has won a game. They're 0-4 after losing badly. Well, the score ended up being close, but they lost badly, really. They were behind 21 points, I think, at one point to Nebraska. Not a good Nebraska team. I don't know why my nose itches every Sunday morning. I should love the stream of consciousness that comes out of me on these Sunday morning shows. Where else in a Penn State? You got a big game next week. Who is it? Northwestern and Wisconsin. Wisconsin with a bunch of games canceled. Northwestern playing very well. Nice win against Purdue yesterday. They're ranked in the top 25. It could be interesting. Who knows? You might have, Indiana and Northwestern playing against each other in the Big Ten championship game. Who knows? Indiana might have to push their way into the playoff conversation if they were to beat Ohio State next week. And obviously go on and win the Big Ten championship. What else stands out yesterday? So many, not a great schedule because of the cancellations. But a lot of big games. Miami I talked about. They struggled all day. Itchy nose will come into money. Nice. Thank you, Billy. Not with we'll talk about my football picks later. We'll do the picks. Let me talk real quick, and I'll jump off college just for a second. We'll do picks later. Billy's here. I know he'll participate. Anybody else who wants to participate, put a comment up. And, thank you. Now I'm losing money, Billy. Make up your mind. I've just won and lost a fortune here in about 13 seconds. I want to congratulate Billy on his score last week, 10-4. Great job. Great job on a tough schedule. Sean McGillen went 7-7. Rick Sherlock 6-8. And TGI Sports Talk went a sterling 3-11. Thankfully, money was on the three winners for me. So somehow, my season record is 58, 72, and 3. It's amazing that I've managed to tread water in the little for fun gambling league we have. All legal. Back to college, guys. Big Ten. I'm trying to wrap up the Big Ten. Again, it's in disarray. It's kind of upside down with what's going on with Michigan and Penn State stinking so bad. Indiana at the top of the league. It's going to be interesting. We see what pans out there. Other events yesterday, we talked about Miami, Wake Forest, and again, he scores. I don't know what the final was there. We'll look at it in a second. 63 to something. Wake Forest was 21 points ahead here. North Carolina storms back. I love Sam Howell. And if the Patriots the Patriots do need to look for a quarterback, they're not going to be in line for one of the top guys. They're not going to be in line for Lawrence. They're not going to be in line for Josh Fields, whoever else we're going to talk about. And I think probably, they're going to be looking at. I think a Sam Howell could fall in the mid first round, maybe in late first round, hopefully. And the Patriots will be in a place to maybe be in a position to take him. I love this kid's game. He brought him back yesterday, 550 yards, 6 touchdowns. They come back and win that game. And we'll talk more about it when we get into it. But the scoring is just outrageous. Notre Dame, all the talk all week was about a letdown. Huge win against Clemson last week, right? Awesome performances we talked about. I don't care if Trevor Lawrence was out or not. Clemson's still a really good football team. But Notre Dame had no letdown yesterday. They beat a decent Boston College team on the road yesterday, fairly handily by the time the game was over. BC stayed in the game for 3 quarters or so, 2.5 quarters. But Notre Dame was just too much. Ian Book is a very underrated quarterback, and he's another guy who is a project that I wouldn't mind ending up seeing on my team at some point. I'm just looking at some of the comments, see if there's anything I need to jump in on here. Clemson, no quarterback. You're telling me DJ, and I will not attempt to pronounce DJ's name, is not a good quarterback? My gosh. He's better than half the quarterbacks playing in the NCAA today. And he doesn't get to play because of the guy in front of him. Just sit, wait for Trevor Lawrence, Billy. I know you think he'll stay if the Jets get him, but I'm telling you, Trevor Lawrence will be coming out of college. So again, Notre Dame, they had no letdown. They talked about 93 when Notre Dame had a big victory. I can't remember who they played the week before. They were number one in the country, and BC knocked them off. Well, they didn't have that history repeat yesterday. And Ian Book is playing some great football. On a lesser note, Felipe Franks returns to Florida, gets blown out. Badly. That team is really good. Florida scores a lot of points, no defense. So it's going to be interesting when Florida plays Alabama. Florida finds a way to beat. You're killing me, Billy. Billy, we're going to have to start drug testing and alcohol testing you before the show starts on Sunday mornings. Billy's posting that the Jets will be 8-8. We'll talk more about the Jets when we get to the NFL. Oh, gosh. So anyway, trying to see what I haven't covered here on the I gotta talk about this before I go. I'll finish up a couple things. The Heisman race, I think, is still shaping up as all quarterbacks now. We had some running backs who were in the conversation earlier in the year, but Trask is just from Florida is just lights out. I think this kid is. There's another guy that there's some quarterbacks outside of Lawrence and Fields in the country that are playing really well. Zach Wilson for BYU is one of them. But I think the Heisman race now is Trask and Jones. Lawrence missing a game, two games, hurts his candidacy. They've moved. Let me finish up here. Sorry. Wilson is still in play. Fields is still in play. But again, Fields is not going to have played a lot of games. It's going to hurt him with voters. The voting's been pushed back to after. So I don't think the votes have to be in now until after the conference championships games are played on December 12th. They will have a virtual presentation on January 5th for the Heisman, which is about a month later than normal. I think the last few years they've done it that week of all those conference championships games early in December, first weekend or second Saturday in December. It seems to me they do it like that. Actually, they may do it that week that the Army Navy has that standalone game, which they lose this year, unfortunately. I love the fact that they're the only teams historically that play on that Saturday, really the last Saturday of the season. That game's also been moved to, as I mentioned last week, to West Point. So, unfortunately, no fans. If you ever get a chance to go to West Point, as I mentioned last week and other weeks, go. It's a tremendous experience to watch a game and get there early so that you can see the fanfare and the march into the stadium and such. So it's a lot of fun. The playoff scenario, right now, again, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State are in the driver's seat, but there's just so much up in the air. Notre Dame still got a rough road to get there. They're undefeated, yes, but they're going to have to probably play Clemson again. And that may determine whether they get into the playoff. I don't know. It depends on what happens behind them. You've got Cincinnati playing great football, win again yesterday. They're going to get into the conversation, especially if one of these other teams loses in front of them. Maybe Ohio State gets upset by Indiana. Indiana has a big jump up. I don't know when the first playoff rankings will be out, but it's got to be soon. They're probably waiting until the Big Ten has maybe 4 or 5 games under their belt, which is 4 games now for most of them, except the ones that have been canceled, Wisconsin and Ohio State. I don't see Wisconsin finding a way to get in the conversation. They could be undefeated and not get in the conversation because they lost 2 games to COVID. We talked about Cincinnati. BYU, again, another group of 5. Well, we'll call them group of 5. They're playing independent schedule this year, but they're a really good football team. Can they beat Alabama? I don't know, but that's not really the point. The point is the 4 best teams the 4 most deserving teams in my mind should be there. If we're really going to have 4, and they really missed a golden opportunity to go to 8 teams this year. They really did. And you got some other teams that could find a way to slide in there. Texas A&M, Florida, as I mentioned. If Texas A&M runs the table and gets to the SEC championship game, they'd have to beat Alabama to get there, or they're going to have 2 losses, but they're still in the conversation. Indiana, who knows what they do? Oregon can't move up, I don't think. I don't think enough games are going to get played for them to be. There's going to be more cancellations and more postponements. And actually, as we move later into the season, even these leagues that started on time, the SEC and the Big 12, ACC, they're not going to be able to make up games forever here. As we get later into the season, we're the middle of November now, and it's going to get harder to make up games. Now, there's a lot of talk on the championship Saturday that even outside of the championship games that are going to be played, they're going to play some of these other games. For instance, I mentioned here the Big Ten is talking about playing, the championship game and then 2 against 2, 3 against 3 in the different divisions. Some of these other leagues are now talking about making up some of these lost games on those championship Saturdays. But is it going to have any real effect on the playoff? Not likely. Anybody else really got an outside chat? I'll tell you what, Miami still is in the running. They've only got one loss, badly, to Clemson. They've beaten everybody else you're supposed to beat. They've won some games where they struggled. And Adair King, as I said, is a fascinating, tremendous player. And they could find themselves in the hunt if somehow they got to the ACC championship game and beat Notre Dame or Clemson. They could get into the conversation, but I don't see it happening right now. I said at the time, I wish Clemson and Miami had played later in the year and not in week 2 or 3, whatever they played. Because I think Miami's a better football team now than they were. And they played short yesterday, as I said. So a lot of teams, but everybody, this COVID-19 is affecting all of these teams, whether they play or don't play. They're affected in some way. Arizona State last week played at 9 a.m. Herm Edwards has it. It is non-discriminating. It's not players. It's not just coaches. It's not just other team members, team staff. It's affecting everybody. And the situation is getting worse across the country, as we know, and there's no reason to think that it won't affect college football even more as we go on the next month or so. That's about it, I guess, for the college. Billy made a comment here. Army throws an interception on the kickoff. Thought he was watching the Jets. Big games next week. Indiana at Ohio State, as I said, assuming these games come off. UCLA, Oregon. Again, I say a big game because Oregon needs to win and win big in all of these games. They've got to show that they're one of the top 4 teams in the country in a much shorter period of time than anybody else. Clemson, Florida State. Florida State's really fallen on hard times. It's amazing some of the traditional powers that are just atrocious now. Florida State, Penn State, Nebraska. These teams, when I was a kid, every year they were in the top 10, top 5, vying for national championships year in and year out. Now these teams have fallen. I don't even know if they'll ever come back. Nebraska, you think, they're just going to be in a little downturn for a few years. It happens to every program. All the big programs have some down years. Nebraska's been down for 12 years, probably, maybe more. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I mean, look at some of the coaches they've gone through since Tom Osborne left. They should have kept, Frank Solich. He did really well after Osborne, but not up to Osborne numbers, and they let him go. He goes to Akron, still keeps winning big on a lesser level, but they have not been able to even replace Frank Solich, much less Tom Osborne. Bill Callahan, Mike Riley. Maybe Frost gets it together, but he's had a couple of years. Drew said he used to root for Nebraska a long time ago. Ancient history now. I know. What was better, back in the day, what was better than getting up? Well, Thanksgiving was, a great holiday anyway when I was a kid. But then Friday you had these traditional games. Oklahoma and Nebraska seemed to play every Friday after Thanksgiving. And they were great games because those teams were always in the hunt. And this game was, usually for the conference championship because it was them and a bunch of weak sisters most years when it was the Big 8 instead of the Big 12. But it was really, Oklahoma and Nebraska for many, many years. And every once in a while, Colorado would jump up and have a good year. But as we get into the 90s and the 2000s and past, some more of these schools, we saw a leveler playing field, right? And the Oklahoma States and the Kansas States Everybody except Kansas. Maybe 1 year they had. They went to the Orange Bowl 1 year. I don't know what happened. Somebody should have been drug testing that team. But yes, all these historical teams, Drew says, it's ancient history for Nebraska. It's ancient history for Florida State. It's starting to be. You know, it's not that long ago that they were in the playoff, but it seems like a decade. Not that long, but it feels like it. And it doesn't feel like they're ready to turn the corner anytime. Doesn't feel like Nebraska is going to turn the corner anytime. Michigan hasn't been a real threat for 10. God, I don't know. When did, Tom Brady's favorite coach, when did he retire? Name's escaping me now. Drew can probably give it to me. Oh, gosh, doesn't matter. But, you know, we've gone through some bad coaches there. Rich Rodriguez, Brady Hoke. Jim Harbaugh should have been the salvation of that team. And look where they are. They're worse than when he got there. Don't think you'll see him there next year. Anyway, other games next week. Again, USC's got a big game against I don't even know who that is, but it doesn't matter. USC again, they're ranked. They're just barely beating Arizona and Arizona State. Not enough time to build on what they've put together early in the year. The eye test is going to be important for these teams, and anybody in the Pac-12, it's going to have any shot at the playoff. Probably Oregon, excuse me, Dale Scott, my favorite retired umpire. Retired umpire would chastise me for not saying Oregon. You know, they're the only one with a shot, and they got to really blow teams away. No, not Schembechler. Followed Schembechler. Oh, God. I know his name. Hang on here, because this will drive me nuts. Excuse my typing. Michigan football. Coaches. Okay, guys. More scintillating football. Lloyd Carr. Lloyd Carr's the guy I'm thinking of. No, would not be after Moeller. Moeller had a couple of decent seasons, and Moeller replaced Schembechler. But the guy I was thinking of was Lloyd Carr. Lloyd Carr had a great career there. He really got Michigan back on a level where Schembechler had them for years. And then they had Rich Rodriguez, Brady Hoke, and Jim Harbaugh. And, you know, so we're talking Lloyd Carr retired in 2007, 13 years ago. Michigan hasn't been relevant since. Sad. You know, again, I talk about this all the time. That some sports, and I got into a conversation in one of the groups I belong in. They were talking about Notre Dame, and people love them or hate them. And all sports are better when certain teams are good, because people love to hate teams, right? So I think these teams that people love to hate are better. The sports are better when the teams that people love to hate, like Notre Dame, are good. More interest in the game. Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami. Less history, but still goes back 30 years now, 40 years. 40 years. That's pretty good history. You know, I think now when you think about Nebraska and Alabama, I guess, but still a pretty significant amount of time. And so the sport is better when these teams are good and people can hate and root against them. Alabama. So people love the Jets. No, you know what? I don't know that I can say that. I think the NFL is better when the Giants are good. They're better when the Bears are good. Cowboys are good. Cowboys are probably the one that stands out the most. And probably the Patriots, to be honest with you, because people love to hate the Patriots, and Patriots are now heading into a down cycle. So, you know, Drew's right. Rivalries are great. But for the rivalries are better, obviously, when both teams are good. You know, Yankees and Red Sox. Think about Yankees and Red Sox for for decades, they had a rivalry in the same way that a hammer had a rivalry with a nail. And then Boston turned that around on them starting in 2000 topic. But so anyway, I guess that's it on the NCAA, unless anybody's got any other comments they want to make. I think myself that right now, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, I think Notre Dame and Clemson can both get into the playoff four. But I don't see probably two teams coming from any other conference. SEC's going to have two lost teams. And if they take a two-loss team over an undefeated Cincinnati team, for instance, you're going to hear an uproar that is not good. So anyway, that's our look at the NCAA football. COVID's still playing havoc with everything. Oh, let's look at the games. I didn't look at the games. Let's look at the games real quick. I like to do that. Yeah, bear with me a second. I get back to my screen I took away. So let's just go through the scoreboard real quick since spent a lot of time on some other topics. We'll see what other games of interest happen, some of the top performances. Hammer and a nail. Yeah, hammer and a nail, Bill. Think about it. I'm saying there is no rivalry between a hammer and a nail. All right. Tuesday Night Football was back this week in the MAC. Not much to talk about there. Ohio beats Akron. Well, I just mentioned Frank Zolich. I don't know if he's still there. Kent State, 62 points. Buffalo beats Miami 42-10. Nobody cares. Well, the people at those schools care. But their Boise State bounces back after losing to BYU badly at home on the blue carpet. They come back and beat Colorado State 52 points. The scoring again, guys, is out of control. How about some defense? COVID is beating the Jets. Well, you got more than COVID to worry about there, Bill. Getting ahead of yourself. Cincinnati 55-17. I mentioned Cincinnati earlier. Again, this is a good football team. 7-0. Ranked 7 in the ESPN poll anyway. I don't know. I think they're going to deserve a shot if they run the table. Florida Atlantic again. That's Conference USA. But Florida Atlantic's played some pretty good football this year. Iowa rolls over Minnesota. I don't know what's going on with Minnesota. Another upside down reference here in the Big Ten. Minnesota last year with a great season, one loss. PJ Fleck is a great coach. They got one win in the Big Ten so far. They get rolled by a mediocre Iowa team at best, 35-7 at home. At home. Bet that game. Damn, getting 3.5 at home. I knew there had to be something wrong. Notre Dame, as we said, rolls over. Not rolls. One's by 14. I think they were in charge of that game pretty much all the way from maybe the first quarter on, mid-first quarter on. Ian Book, I'm telling you, underrated. 3 touchdowns, 283. Ran for 85 yards and a touchdown. This kid's underrated. I got in another conversation. A guy laughed at me when they wanted to talk about underrated quarterbacks, and guys are bringing up Kyle Trask and Josh Field. These guys are in the Heisman talk and have been all year long. How are they underrated? What's your definition of underrated? Gosh. Getting cranky, Bill. Getting cranky. More coffee. Ian Book's underrated. Moving on. Florida, 63-35. Guys, not overtimes. I'll tell you when these games are in overtime. 63-35. Where's the defense? There is none. None. Some places. Miami with a squeaker over Virginia Tech, as I said. Derek King with another big game. Indiana rolls over Michigan State. Not sure what to make of it. Indiana's 4-0 at the top of the Big Ten. But what really should be really, you would think would be huge wins against Michigan, Penn State, even Michigan State in any other year. I don't know what to make of it. How good is Indiana when the teams they've beaten are combined? Gosh, probably 2-14 or something. Oregon rolls 43-29 over Washington State. Again, they need some big victories. They've got to open some eyes if they're going to move up into that playoff conversation. Wisconsin, same thing. They've only played 2 games. If it seems they haven't played in a month, it's because you're about right. 2 games. 49-11, they roll over Michigan. You got to go home, Jim Harbaugh. I don't know where home's going to be for you, but it's time to look for another position. Marshall. One thing I forgot to bring up, Marshall wins 42-14 yesterday. And yesterday was a sad anniversary. It was the 50th anniversary of the plane crash in 1970 that really wiped out, 80% of the team. Very sad. They had played, I believe, West Virginia and were flying home, and the plane crashed very close to where they should have landed. And it was very sad. Coaching staff wiped out, except for one coach. If you haven't seen, I believe the name of the movie is We Are Marshall. If you have not seen that with Matthew McConaughey, great movie. You really need to watch it. And that story of how they rebuilt that program is tremendous. And Marshall today, is a really good football program. Very good football program. I'll back up here a little bit. I know I tend to do this because of the delay. I don't see your comments right away, but Oregon does have the best helmets, Drew. You never know what they're going to wear on a given Saturday. I haven't seen. Of course, they've only played a couple of games, but in their history, they've worn some of the most atrocious color combinations I've ever seen. Anyway, Marshall wore special uniforms, all black, yesterday in honor of that team, that 1970 team. And again, if you have not seen, Marshall's 16th in the country. They're a good football program. They have been for quite a while now, but they were devastated 50 years ago, obviously, when this happened. If you haven't seen the movie, We Are Marshall, and I hope that's the name of that movie, please check it out. It's really a great movie. Moving on, Tulsa upsets SMU. Small upset. They were playing home. So I don't know if we can really call that an upset. USC squeaks by Arizona, who's not that good, 34-30. So USC might be a bit overrated. Liberty, what a great story Liberty is, 8-0. They win 58-14 over Western Carolina. They're 22nd in the country. Great story, Liberty. Everybody knows the historic significance of that program, right? No, there is none. Some really good wins. A great win last week against Virginia Tech, as we talked about last week. In an interesting game, Northwestern squeaks by Purdue yesterday, 27-20. Northwestern's 4-0 in the Big Ten. They're going to be in the hunt for the championship there. Louisiana beats South Florida. Army, who've been playing very well, loses badly at Tulane, 38-12. I like Army. I'm always rooting for Army all the time. I don't know why. I love the Army-Navy game. I can't wait till they play it. And I just wish there was going to be fans at, God, I can't think of the name of the stadium, Meek Stadium. It's a great event. If you ever get a chance to go to an Army game, go. Home game. We talked about Nebraska beats Penn State. Penn State 0-4. Nebraska gets their first win. They're 1-2. They win by 7, but they were up by 21 at one point. North Carolina beats Wake Forest 59-53. Again, this is an overtime score, folks. Sorry, sound like Joe Biden there. I'm not going to say folks again, I promise. God. I have a new drinking game. Whenever Joe Biden gives a speech, I have to drink every time that he says folks. Not good for my health. I found that funny. West Virginia beats TCU 24-6. Kentucky, up and down team. You know, Stoops is a great coach. They're 3-4. They've had some good wins. They beat Vanderbilt only by 3 yesterday, and Vanderbilt's no good. They're 0-6. Kentucky plays Alabama next week. Going to be kind of interesting because Kentucky can rise up and have shown that they can compete with these guys. So Illinois and Lovie Smith gets their first win of the year over Rutgers. Unfortunately, Rutgers lost 3 in a row after winning against Michigan State, which looked like a nice win at the time, especially once Michigan State went on and beat Michigan the week after. Rutgers is still Rutgers, though. Greg Schiano, maybe he can rebuild them, but they're not playing in the Big East now, like when he built them into a national story his first time around. They're playing in the Big Ten. It's going to be very tough to build that program back up. Appalachian State, Georgia State. Appalachian State wins. We got any other interesting games here? Houston over South Florida, 56-21. Louisville loses again. Very disappointing season for Louisville this year. They lose to Virginia 31-17. They're 2-6, 1-6 in the ACC. Very disappointing. Their coach is going to have potentially be in trouble. Colorado beats Stanford 35-32. They're 2-0 in the Pac-12. Stanford off to an 0-2 start. They're having a down year this year. San Diego State rolls over Hawaii. Texas Tech squeaks by Baylor. Nevada beats New Mexico. As we said, that game had to be moved because New Mexico's governor will not allow any games to be played within the state. So they moved it to Vegas, and Nevada, I guess, theoretically ends up with a home game there. Although there's probably no people in the stands. UCF, we talk about a lot. I talk about my love of the American Conference, the AAC, American Athletic Conference, and some really good teams in that conference. They're one of them, along with Cincinnati and Memphis and Houston. They beat Temple yesterday solidly. Florida State, as I mentioned before, 2-6 after losing to North Carolina State, a very mediocre North Carolina State team. Florida State is just on the ropes. Ole Miss gets to 3-4 with a big win. 40. Look at this score again. Again, no overtime, guys. You notice I didn't say the F word. Ole Miss 59-42 over South Carolina. Will Muschamp's got to be in trouble at South Carolina too. Look like they might be turning the corner a little earlier in the season, but it's not getting it done. Washington beats Oregon State. Then you got your games that are postponed or canceled. Alabama, LSU postponed. As I said before, they're going to have trouble playing all those games in the SEC. Florida's got games to make up. LSU's got 2 games to make up now against Alabama and Florida. So I don't know how they're going to decide that and which games they're going to play and which games they aren't, if it comes to that, because those games are both important because Florida's in the hunt for the SEC title game. Ohio State, Maryland canceled. As I said, Ohio State's going to, the thing that's going to hurt them, it's going to hurt Josh Fields in the Heisman race. It's going to hurt them in the playoff race is lack of games. They're a great team. They're definitely one of the top 4 teams in the country. It'd be very hard to leave them out, but if they play 5 games or 6 games, and everybody else has played 10 or 11, it gets tough. Good morning, Rick Sherlock. Didn't say good morning to Drew either when he got in the room. Sorry about that, Drew. You were having a conversation with Billy. Obviously, I know. Texas A&M, Tennessee postponed. Important game. Texas A&M still in the hunt for the SEC championship. Georgia, Missouri. Then you got Coastal Carolina. Auburn's canceled. Again, 15 games in all, guys. Memphis, Navy, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is not good this year. They're playing Miami next week, so that's a good sign for Miami. And then UCLA, Utah, Cal, and Arizona State. That Utah UCLA game, that's one I mentioned earlier. I mixed up the opponent for UCLA. They're playing that game today, actually. So that's interesting. That they moved it a day. None of the college teams have done that yet, played on a Sunday. I think they're playing at 9 a.m. It's another 9 a.m. West Coast start. So wake up early, guys. They're probably getting up now to have their team breakfast. That's it, guys. Let's move on to the NFL. Okay, NFL. What do we want to talk about? Some interesting stories this week. Well, last week. Let's look at last week first. The Bills with a big win against the Seahawks last week. I keep saying I'm not a believer in the Bills and Josh Allen. And their defense has struggled. Their defense struggled again last week. The defense was supposed to be their calling card, but they beat a very good Seattle team who also has a horrible defense, by the way. So they beat them at home, but that's still a big win for the Buffalo. And they find themselves in a driver's seat in the AFC East by 2 games now over Miami. The Chiefs struggle mightily again, which they've done in a few games, but they're still 8-1. They struggled mightily against the Panthers, but pulled it out at the end. I mean, and again, good teams win those games, as I said. The Vikings, Rick Sherlock, the Vikings are starting 0-5, get their 3rd win in a row, and they're back in the playoff hunt. I like them today again. 3 weeks in a row. Or is that 2 weeks in a row? I guess I had Green Bay against them 2 or 3 weeks ago. The Steelers struggle mightily against the Cowboys. Yeah, I agree with the Seattle had to fly east theory. Again, it's kind of been the West Coast teams coming and playing 1:00 games on the East Coast has historically been a challenge. This year, though, it hasn't been as impactful. But in that game, it was for sure, or likely was. Again, the Steelers were struggled, but they got by the Cowboys in the end of that game. The Cowboys, who knows what they're doing? I mean, probably Dak Prescott's, even with his devastating injury, his bargaining power gets better with Jerry Jones every day. Unless, they decided that they're tanking for Trevor. I don't know. It's possible. Dolphins win a great game on the road against Arizona. It was a fun game. Great matchup of Kyle Murray and Tua. And as you know, I only say Tua because I will not try to pronounce his last name ever again. His brother's playing at Maryland, by the way, and playing very well. It was a great game, back and forth. Tua brought them back where he didn't have a lot of impact the week before against the Rams in a win at home. He had a big impact on the game last week, threw for a couple touchdowns. It was just a fun game. And there's some young quarterbacks, guys, in the league right now that are really going to be fun to watch in the game in the seasons to come. Tua, Kyle Murray, Justin Herbert. I always want to say Herbert. I don't know why. Justin Herbert. I guess I want to make it fancier. And I'm missing a guy. Who's the other great young quarterbacks that I like? Joe Burrow. How can I forget Joe Burrow? Playing great as a rookie. His first 8 games where he ought to be really struggling. He's played well, and this is where the guys really start to get it, right? The Bengals, only got 2 wins, but they've played very competitive football, and Joe Burrow's played very, very well. Joe Burrow's going to be huge. Let's see. Cowboys had a what did you say here? Sorry, said something. Oh, Cowboys in New Jersey territory. Yeah, I agree. I also enjoy the New Jersey reference. Drew. New York does only have one football team, as we all know. But the Dolphins, after the Dolphins, 5-3. I said on the Mac and Jack show, which I enjoy having a segment with them every Friday morning. I do it right after my interview show, just 20 minutes, half hour sometimes. I actually guest host earlier this week. I was off work. So I just and they needed Jack couldn't be on. Mac asked me to guest host with him. So it was a lot of fun to be on the Mac and Jack show. I do post their shows on my page a lot of times. So check them out. You can check them out at maxsports.com. That's MAC''S sports. We have a lot of fun. They talk about a lot of stuff. I don't know how they do it, man. Mac's got a full-time job and he does 2 hours he obviously works, later. I believe he's a catering chef. But he has 2 hours every day, Wednesday to Sunday. God bless him. Maybe when I retire, we'll do that. I want to spend more time with you guys. We're building an audience. As I said back when we started this, view by view, follower by follower, one at a time. And we're starting to get there. The followers are starting to grow. The views are up and down depending on the guests. I obviously get more views for shows where I have a guest than when it's just me and my stream of consciousness chatting with you guys. I enjoy this format. And guys, if you want to call, by the way, ever, I'll put the number up again. You guys like to chat in a room. So where is my number? Hold on. I'll put it up there anyway. Oh gosh, where are you? We'll put it up. Also, one day I'll have one of you guys come in and I'll put you in. Give me your email address. I'll send you a quick invite and we'll bring you in the room to bring you on the show. You're going to have to come on camera, Billy. Probably put some clothes on. Put the bottle of vodka down. Just kidding, Billy. The financial hour? What financial hour? You couldn't name 5 starting quarterbacks for the season? How do you win 10 games last week if you don't know 5 starting quarterbacks? Penny Jones, yes. We like Penny Jones. We call him, that doesn't work. It's Danny Dimes. But we call him Danny Penny. You might win this week. What else was I talking? I was talking about the Dolphins. Dolphins. Guys get me off track all the time. The Dolphins are ahead of schedule. I said on the Mac and Jack show, one of the first appearances I had with them, that I thought the Dolphins were a year away yet. They got a great coach. They got a great coaching staff. Brian Flores is awesome. Expatriate coach, de facto defensive coordinator. Never got the title, I don't think, because they don't like to pay. You got to pay more if you give somebody the title. There's no defensive coordinator now. But he's doing a great job there. And smartly switching to Tua, I think, at the bye. I wasn't so sure. Fitzpatrick wasn't happy, but you know what? At worst, you're going to get, the same production out of Tua for the last 10 games you're going to get out of Fitzpatrick. And their defense and their offense have put them in a position to, I guess, offensively, probably more than defensively. They put them in a playoff position, in the playoffs that he started today. I think even without the expanded playoffs, which we'll touch on again when we review the standings. So the Dolphins are a great story. The Saints roll over the Bucks. I can't not touch on this game. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about coaches in a second. Yeah, Drew's talking about amazing what teams can do when they get rid of Adam Gase. We're going to talk a little bit about some coaches in trouble in a second. The Saints again roll over Tom Brady and the Bucks for the second time. They're in the driver's seat now in the West or the South, NFC South. Brady looked terrible. I believe by statistical rating, he had his third worst game in his career. Third worst game. There are days where Tom Brady looks old. And again, all the conversation about Brady, Belichick, and obviously it was Brady. Come on, stop. Look at the weapons around Tom Brady. But there's no cohesiveness there. They played well for a stretch of 4 games, and they're probably still going to be a really good football team, and they're going to get better as they go along. Their defense was not good either Sunday. But they need to play together more. You can tell right now, there are days like last Sunday where it looks like it's just a collection of great players thrown out there who never got together, an all-star team. And those don't beat anybody in the NFL. So they need to get together. Very impressive, though, because I hadn't written the Saints off, but Breeze had played so bad early in the year. The Saints had played bad, except for that game against the Bucks in Game 1. They really struggled, but now they were struggling but winning games. And as I said earlier, that's so important. And that's why good teams can get through bad stretches and not just fall off the map. They find a way. They lose a game here or there, but they struggle and, whatever. They had a bad stretch and they go 2-2 or 4-3 or 4-2, and depending on how big the stretch is. But they don't go 0-4, 0-5. When they hit a bad stretch, they find ways to win games when they're not at their best. That's what good teams do. And of course, the Patriots have a bit of life after beating the lowly Jets last week. I'm not putting a lot of stock into that. It does show me that the people who are out there saying that Belichick's going to tank so he could potentially get in the Trevor Lawrence conversation or one of the top quarterbacks. He's not going to do that. It's not in his DNA to tank. If they'd gotten blown out by the Jets, I would say, okay, you're right. But they didn't. They played very well. Cam played pretty well. Again, I know it was against the Jets. Jacoby Myers again with a big game. He's had some very good games the last month, and they may have found themselves a wide receiver. They need more. Darius Byrd played pretty well as well. Harris, I'm sorry. Darius. God. Sorry, Sunday morning. Harris played well, running the ball again. So they had a good team effort. Defense didn't play that well, but they did get blown out by the Jets. Oh. You got the VCR going Monday night, did you, Bill? Anyway, we'll see. They got the Ravens today. Belichick. We'll talk about it when we do the picks. A couple other stories I wanted to talk about. COVID. Got some players. A lot of players went into COVID protocol this week, including Ben Roethlisberger. He was cleared to play yesterday. So he will be playing today. We talked about the great young quarterbacks in the game. Bills fans, interesting story. Josh Allen's grandmother passed away last week, I think Saturday or Friday before the game. And he's very big with the I'll never say the name right. The maybe Drew can help me here. I know he's been out in that area in Buffalo. The Oshie Children's Hospital. I'm sure I said it wrong. But he spends a lot of time donating time there and with the kids. And he'd mentioned something before the game about that and his grandmother's passing, and Bills fans pretty much at $17 a clip, his number 17, donated about $500,000 to that hospital in the last week. And I think that's a great job. And a really classy thing for the Bills fans to have done. I think that's a great story. What else? Mark Ingram's back this week, hopefully. Talked about the great young quarterback. We talked about that. Let's talk about some coaches in trouble. Time is it? 10 o'clock. We'll talk about some coaches in trouble. And a couple spots that are open already. And then we'll do the picks. So Drew's here today. If Drew wants to pick today, you're certainly welcome to join back in, Drew. Rick, If you want to pick again today, you can. We had 4-way last week. Billy kicked TGI Sports Talk's butt. 3 wins for TGI Sports Talk. Again, guys, that's amazing. I'm even. We have something we call we have something that we call a cigar box where a bunch of us play, wager. And there's limits what you can do. But it's amazing that I'm basically even for the year with the year I've had picking the pros. Must be most of my wins are on Saturdays. I can't pick Thursday night games. I can't pick Friday games in college. I got to stick to Saturday and Sundays. It's just ridiculous. So Rick and Rick's going to be in. Good. All right. Coaches in trouble. Well, we got 2 spots that are already open, right? Texans fired Bill O'Brien. There's talk now that Romeo Crennel, who's the interim, will be the full-time coach next year, 2021, just because of the COVID situation and the fact that all these interviews got to be done by Zoom. And I can tell you, as somebody who's trying to recruit some people for a position, it's very tough to try to hire people remotely and do interviews, and you really get a feel for people remotely. It's very hard, very hard. So they're talking very seriously about keeping Romeo Crennel for another year, which, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I love Romeo because he was a big part of the Patriots dynasty in the early part of it. He was a defensive coordinator for 3 Super Bowl champions before he moved on and failed as a head coach in Cleveland, failed as a head coach in Kansas City. He's a great coordinator. And I don't know if they're not going to have the talent for another 2 years. Well, then maybe it makes sense not to get a top guy. But I can tell you right now, if they bypass, a really hot prospect just because they don't want to do Zoom interviews, then they're making a mistake. I mean, I think if they bring Eric Bieniemy in, the offensive coordinator for Kansas City, to work with Deshaun Watson and get some weapons around, then they'll be onto something. Bill O'Brien's overstayed his welcome there. Another guy who's a really good coordinator, was the offensive coordinator without the title for the Patriots for a few years before he went to Penn State. Did a great job in Penn State, at Penn State, in a very tough circumstances with the whole Sandusky scandal there and the paternal conversation and his forced ouster. But Bill O'Brien's probably going to get a coordinator's job at some point. The other opening is the Falcons. And, I don't think Raheem Morris is going to be the long-term guy there. Not sure who they're looking at. I hear rumors it might be Joe Brady. Romeo Crennel is the Tony La Russa of football. Age-wise, I'm assuming you're talking about Drew, because he certainly hasn't had the success of Tony La Russa. La Russa's in trouble. There's a lot of controversy about him being hired in the first place because of some of his political, social statements, whatever. I don't care about the hiring. I mean, I'm fine with it myself. And there's some question about how he'd handle some of the White Sox players because they're very demonstrative and things that I'm not crazy about watching they do. I think it would drive Tony La Russa crazy. So there was already controversy about Tony La Russa. Now, he had a DWI, it turns out, like a day before he was announced as the manager. So, which was not brought to anybody's attention until like last week. So who knows? His tenure could be very short there. You remember what happened to, and again, I'm off topic here, but you remember what happened to Wally Backman a few years back, quite a few years back now, when he got hired as a Diamondback coach and found out he had some issues that he'd forgotten to tell the team. He never managed a game in the major leagues. All right, back to where I was. Anyway, the Falcons and Raheem Morris. There's the rumors that I hear are that, and you guys know how much, if you've watched every week, you know how much I love the Panthers' hire of Matt Rule, and the fact that Matt Rule made a brilliant move bringing Joe Brady along with him to be his offensive coordinator. Took him from LSU. He's a guy credited with turning Joe Burrow into the number one pick in the draft. And now there's a lot of talk that Joe Brady may be in line for a head coaching job in the NFL, and the Falcons are one of those places that we're talking about. Yeah, that's true. Good point. The indictment came down just last week, but again, the point would be that, I don't know whether he told Jerry Reisdorf about that DUI. But also the stories that have come out in the meantime about LaRusso and him trying to get himself out of it by saying, I'm a Hall of Famer, and again, it's a bad look. Who knows? He'll probably keep his job, but I like LaRusso. I think he's one of the best managers in the history of baseball. So, well, the numbers don't make that really going out too far on a limb, right? So anyway, that's the Falcons right now. And then we got guys who are in trouble. Adam Gase is gone. He's a dead man walking. Be very interesting what the Jets do there. I would think they've got to get an offensive-minded head coach if they're in fact going to bring Trevor Lawrence into the mix. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But there's some really good offensive minds that are going to be available too. Joe Brady. Now, unproven. Maybe the Jets want to get a proven coach in there now. They've gone the assistant route now. Oh, gosh, at least a few times in a row with Bowles and Gase. Not sure who was there. I'm trying to think who was there before Bowles, but Gase stays. Well, if you enjoy being 0-16 every year, Bill, then you keep Adam Gase. He's lost. The man is lost. Probably a good coordinator. The Gase is gone. He's not going to be there. So that's two things we disagree on about your team. You don't think Lawrence is coming out either. He's coming out. Anthony Lynn with the Chargers. I think that's a really plum job, to be honest with you. You got a great young quarterback in Justin Herbert. They got a good young defense. They've got some talent at the skill positions. And they're 2-6, but they've lost games every conceivable way you can think of. I mean, they probably ought to be at least 500 right now. And Anthony Lynn is going to be in trouble. I would think he's a dead man walking as well. Again, I think a plum job for anybody who, who knows where teams are going to go. COVID-19 has really put a hamper on a lot of things. We just talked about the Texans situation and the whole interview process and being able to meet with people face to face, and the money situation is going to be huge. We're going to see it in Major League Baseball in the free agent situation. We're going to see it in football in the free agent situation and the coaching hires. The money's going to be a little tighter than it's been in the past. A lot of TV money, yeah, but I'll tell you what, those people not being in the seats cost these teams a lot of money. And they got TV contracts to negotiate too. Mike McCarthy might be in trouble. I mean, I don't know that Jerry Jones is going to pull the plug on him after 1 year, especially after losing your starting quarterback, 4 games into the season. But they weren't playing very well before that either. And there's a lot of unrest in the locker room there about McCarthy. And, he could be in trouble. Mike Zimmer, as I said, and I think Rick Sherlock doesn't agree with me. I like Zimmer. And I thought a few weeks ago he was probably in trouble. He probably still is unless they continue this hot streak. I think if he rights the ship here and they get themselves into the playoffs, he's probably geared himself another year. Nagy with the Bears, I think, is in a lot of trouble as well. It just, they put him in a bad situation with the quarterbacks, but I like Trubisky myself. I really think he's got some talent. I think he'll move on from there, and he'll he's a project I wouldn't mind seeing the Patriots take on. But Nagy's a guy who should be nurturing quarterbacks along, and I don't know if he didn't want Trubisky or maybe Trubisky's no good. Nagy knows more than I know, obviously, or I wouldn't be sitting here and he wouldn't be sitting where he is. But he's got to take some of the blame for the lack of progress that Trubisky made over the last 3 years. I mean, he looked at one time like he was starting to get it together, and then he regressed. Well, you're probably right. Billy's asking, how can a coach be evaluated? And if you guys want to chime in, I'm done with the guys I think are in trouble. But if you think there's other coaches that may be on the hot seat, you can certainly weigh in here and we can talk about it a little bit before we move forward. But, it is hard. It is hard to evaluate coaches. But, some of the guys I've talked about, this isn't just a COVID. It isn't just this COVID season that we're evaluating these guys on. Anthony Lynn has had plenty of chance in L.A. Bill O'Brien had plenty of chances in Houston before they moved on him. Adam Gase, look at if you think the Jets' problems are all COVID related, then maybe you should be the Jet coach, Billy. Adam Gase is not an NFL head coach. He failed in Miami. No COVID situation then. Didn't have players, but still. They were not unhappy to see him go. So, again, Mike McCarthy, again, I wouldn't judge him this year. He should get another year for sure. So Mike Zimmer should probably get another year because they've been good most of his tenure there. Not winning playoff games, but Nagy, I think, has had plenty of chance as well, and so did Dan Quinn. So the guys that have been fired so far had plenty of opportunity. This isn't a COVID-19 season situation, so just my humble opinion. But that's why I'm here. I love disagreeing with you. It's fine. We can agree to disagree. That's a good thing about me. And hopefully you guys as well. I will listen to everybody's opinion. I'm a very opinionated person. Whether it's sports, whether it's politics, but I don't talk politics on social media. I don't talk politics on my show. But I'm open-minded. I listen to people. And the problem, and it becomes this way in sports as well, but it's an epidemic in this country. Probably a bad word to use, but it fits in my mind that, nobody listens. There's no conversation back and forth. We're a very partisan society. And it's sad, and nothing's going to get done until things change. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I'll just leave it there. So that's just my political statement. I read my political statement last week, Bill. Maybe you missed it. You got to watch the beginning of last week's show. I had a great political statement. I don't want to give it away, but if you go back and watch it, I'll give it away. It was basically, I read a big, long thing, and it sounded like I was talking about Donald Trump leaving, and it was really about Tom Brady being with Tampa Bay. It was pretty funny. I had to share it. So if you didn't, I did it at the very opening, I think, of last week's show. So if you want to go back and watch it, if you missed it, it was fun doing it. So that's what I got. Let's look real quick. We'll go through the standings real quick, see what's anything's changed, who I think might be still in the hunt, who I think might be dead in the water. And we'll go through this quickly so we can get to the picks. Again, I know Billy's in, Rick's in. Drew, if I missed it, you could certainly welcome to participate again. I think you We all tied, I think, the last time you played. We still got to look for a time to get together, and it may be tough because who knows? We may be going into another lockdown soon. So we will be getting our BJ's on. That sounds bad. We'll be going to BJ's to have a few beers at some point. AFC East lines. I give you the lines as I go along here. I can't be typing them all out. I don't have a producer, Bill. I'm the producer. I'm the executive producer. I'm the show booker. I'm the advertising guy. Yeah, you probably. I think you did win. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe you. I haven't won a week when I've picked against you guys. I got started out well until I started inviting you guys to pick with me, and I went in a crapper. All right, AFC East. Buffalo's in the driver's seat right now. 2-game lead on the Dolphins, but don't write the Dolphins off. They're playing really good football. We're going to find out about my team tonight. If there's any real life, they need to have some fight against the Ravens. Belichick tends to, I know I owe you a beer. I owe everybody a beer. So we'll be getting together for that once. We'll see how your health is holding up and when you're able to stand. And we'll have to find a time where Billy and Rick can get together too. So we'll find out a lot about the Patriots tonight. If they're going to sneak back in this thing, and again, they've expanded the playoffs to 7 teams, as you know, and there's also the opportunity. You'll never pay for a beer. You're right. You won't. Expanding the playoffs, 7 teams. I wasn't crazy about it. It is what it is. There's the opportunity, as I mentioned last week. There's still a chance. I think I mentioned. I might have been on Mac and Jack's show. I mentioned it that the NFL is leaving the option open that if teams haven't all played the same number of games, and teams might have been in the playoff conversation if they had played an extra game and could make it up, that they may entertain an 8th team, which I hate. And in that scenario, they would also do away with the division winners having seeding over wild cards. It would just be strictly the number 1 team by win-loss would play the worst team. So it could be a division winner in the 8th spot in the Eagles situation, for instance. But I'm not a big fan of that scenario, but we'll see. The AFC North, Pittsburgh Steelers. 8-0. The schedule hasn't been the strongest. They did beat the Ravens. They did beat the Titans. Pittsburgh going to go 16-0? I don't think so. But they're certainly going to be in the playoffs and in the driver's seat. They got a 2-game lead on the Ravens and also a game in hand against them. The Browns probably going to be in the playoffs. They're 5-3. Still not a Baker Mayfield fan. This team wins games. They've won 5 games. They're 5-3. They lost some games they shouldn't have lost. Lost to Raiders at home. There's something, it's just not quite there. And again, they've been outscored by 31 points. They're 5-3. There's some interesting point differentials in the league this year. The AFC South, the Colts, who I just keep saying every week I don't believe in, and then they beat up the Titans the other night. They're tied now at the top, and the Colts got a game in hand there. Not a big Ryan Tannehill fan either. Not a Phillip Rivers fan here either. They're the only team that's got a chance here, obviously. The Texans are out of it. Jacksonville's horrible. We got no quarterback. I feel bad for Deshaun Watson in Houston. The man, he's a great talent. Great talent. And they just have been dysfunctional, really, from the beginning. Now Watt wants out. Tough situation. AFC West, Chiefs running away with it 8-1, but Raiders are in the playoffs right now. Another team with a winning record, but a negative point differential. Well, we'll look at Pulver's Pub if we get locked down. Can't have more than 10 people there, so we can't invite any more pickers. Where was I? Broncos might sneak back into the playoff hunt here. They were one of my sleepers at the beginning of the year. They didn't play well out of the gate. They played better the last month, so we'll see if they can get into it. Chargers, again, badly coached team. They're finding so many ways to lose games. It's just it's too bad. But they got a future there. Fans of the Chargers should keep their heads up. Eagles, the AFC East. It's starting to look a little better, guys. I got a team that's almost 500 leading the division now, 3-4-1. And the rest of them have all got 2 wins. And, theoretically, they could all win the division yet. The Giants with Danny Penny, they're still a lot out of it. Every team in the division with a bad point differential. Oh, God. Washington might be the class of that division. I don't know yet. The Eagles. I was on the Mac and Jack show when I I did have the Titans, by the way, Thursday night. How'd you know, Bill? I bet them too. Oh, gosh. Oh, terrible, right? Anyway, NFC East, one team's getting in the playoffs from there, most likely, and that'll be that. I was on with a Philadelphia fan on the Mac and Jack show. And the guy came in his full face painted, and it was hilarious. And he really thinks they're gonna, like run the table here and go 10-5-1. Not run the table, but like lose one game the rest of the way out. Now, these guys are fortunate that they're playing, 6 games each within the division. I still think 7 wins is all it's going to take to win that division. Now, maybe one of them get hot and go 500. I don't know. The NFC North, rather, the Packers up and down. They look like the best team in football one week, and then they go to Minnesota and get pulverized. But they played a great game again last week, so they're still the class of the division. The Bears are going in the wrong direction. I don't see them even finishing 500, to be honest with you. The Vikings, on the other hand, are heading the right direction, and they've won 3 in a row, and I think they've got it going now. And they've got some talent. If Cousins plays well and doesn't lose games for him, and they're probably the most, them and the Titans are probably the most run-heavy teams in the league. If Cook is able to run the ball successfully, they're going to do very well. And Cousins, takes care of the football. So they may sneak into the playoff picture yet. Again, remember, nobody's far out of the playoff picture with that 7th team added. So, and the Lions, unfortunately, they take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Every time I think they're starting to get it together, they lose a game at home to somebody they shouldn't lose to. And Matt Patricia should be on my list of coaches in trouble, by the way. I've missed him. Matt Patricia's probably, I would say he's going to be out at the end of the year. He, again, not a COVID situation. This is his 3rd year. Haven't done anything. What's the trademark, Bill? Pulverized? If I say it, do I have to pay a royalty, or what's the deal? Rick had the Titans. Drew had the Colts. All right, I'll remember that. I don't know. You're not saying who you had yet, Bill. I'll recap that when we do the picks here in a second. NFC South, very interesting. As I said, now the Saints with a half a game lead in that a game in hand in the loss column, I guess, which is important. And also having beaten the Bucs twice, they're really in the driver's seat right now, and starting to play really good football the last month. The Bucs, again, there's something missing there, and I think it's the again the the togetherness, the unity, the playing together and reading each other's minds. It's obviously not there with the Patriots and Edelman and when he's healthy or on the field. I shouldn't even say healthy. And Cam Newton. Brady doesn't have that connection with any of these guys yet. Even Gronk. Gronk's gotten more involved in the offense recently, and probably a good thing. Well, you guys get chatting, Bill. That's why I missed some of the messages, because I'm trying to do a show here and talk, and I can't necessarily read every message. Sorry, that sounded a little mean-spirited. I apologize. I wanted to comment on something Drew said here. The Belichick tree not bearing fruit. For the most part, that's a true statement. Charlie Weiss flamed out, obviously, at Notre Dame, flamed out at Kansas, but everybody flames out at Kansas. Flamed out as even the offensive coordinator for the Florida Gators. Charlie's got a radio show now, and that's he's out of football. Matt Patricia, no good. Romeo Cornell, no good. Who's our favorite Jet coach? Mangini, Eric Mangini. Quick success and then flamed out with the Jets, flamed out with the Browns. Brian Flores might be the guy that turns that tree around a little bit and gets it a little bit, bearing a little bit of fruit, because he's a really good coach. And the Dolphins are heading in the right direction. Players make all the difference. Anyway, back to the South. Talked enough about Brady and the Buccaneers. Falcons are such a enigma. A lot of talent, especially on the offensive side of football. They played better since they fired Quinn. They might be 3-1 since they fired Quinn. And with 3 wins, I mean, with the extra playoff spot, they're probably got a chance. They'd have to get really good. Vrabel, he didn't coach on the staff, so I guess we can't give him credit for Vrabel. Belichick credit for Vrabel. Bill, I guess I should probably let people know what I'm talking about, and I'm commenting on the comments now. So Drew's saying we can't count Vrabel in Belichick's coaching tree, which is, I would say, is accurate. Although he was kind of a coach on the field. So love Mike Vrabel, by the way. The fact that he has that team got them to as far as he did in the playoffs last year, and he's had them playing good football this year. It's a flawed team, as we saw Thursday night. But he's a really good coach. And Carolina's on the right path. I mean, they've lost some tough games this year. And I love Matt Rule, as I told you guys 100 times in the past. They're on the right track. Doubtful they're going to make the playoffs this year, though. And then the NFC West, which has been the strongest division in football, is probably going to lose a member of that strong tribe, because the 49ers are in trouble. Garoppolo's out again. Rumors Garoppolo might find his way back to New England next year, by the way, but Garoppolo can't stay on the field. And he's got a high ankle sprain, and he may be done for the year. It's touch and go. Bosa's hurt. Kittle's probably out for the year. They're in a lot of trouble. Their injuries have just decimated them. The Rams have been kind of up and down, but I still like the Rams. This is a division where everybody's got a solid point differential. The entire division. The Seahawks are still the class of the division until proven otherwise. The Cardinals are a little bit up and down, but their offense is dynamic. And the defense is playing fairly well. So they've got a puncher's shot of, I think they got the Seattle this week. We'll see when we do the picks. I can't remember right now. So that's all I got. We're going to move on to the picks. Billy wants the spreads. Listen, Bill. Be listening when I give you the spreads. Picks, week 10. So let's see. Drew's picking. Rick's picking. Keith's picking. Billy's picking. Back to Thursday night. Drew had the Colts. Good job, Drew. Rick had the Titans. Keith had the Titans. Not a big surprise. Keith's going to go 3-11 again this week. And Billy had the Colts. I don't want him to chastise me for not looking back again. Are you ready, William? Give me a thumbs up, Bill, that you're all ready to go. Stay with me, buddy. Oh, Rick had the Colts? Sorry. My bad, Rick. Maybe I read your... Maybe Billy's right. I read every other message. All right, Rick had the Colts. Awesome. All right, so Keith's the only loser. Start a game behind. Be more behind than that when we get done here. Season record, guys. What'd I tell you it was? 58, 72, and 3 against the spread. Horrible. Fortunately, my better bets I've had been at least able to tread water. So we aren't losing money. All right, here we go. We're going to start with the Bills at the Cardinals. I guess Seattle's not playing the Cardinals. All right, Cardinals -1 at home. Very tough game, I think. This is going to be an exciting game. Could be a lot of points scored in this game. Bills with a big win against Seattle last week. Arizona with a very tough loss at home to Miami. Kyle Murray is just playing tremendous football, but he needs some help. Josh Allen, probably one of the top. He may be the most underrated quarterback in football right now. So I'm going to take the Bills and the 1 point here. Bills +1. I think I saw Rick's pick come in. Cardinals. Drew, Bills. Billy, Cardinals. Well, we're going to be all over the board this week. I can see it. It's going to be an exciting game. That game is at 4:05, I think. I have not checked the TV schedule, but hopefully we'll get that game. I can't believe we wouldn't. Maybe not. We got the Seahawks and the Rams as well. Maybe there's 2 games. Yeah, one's on CBS, one's on Fox. We might have 2 late games here today, I hope. Seahawks and the Rams. Rams -1.5 at home. The Rams been kind of up and down. They did get a bye week last week, which they probably needed. And every other team in the division lost, so it was a good bye week for them. Seattle had a very tough game in Buffalo. The defense let them down. They scored enough points, obviously, to win, and they normally do. I think, Russell Wilson is the MVP of the league right now. And, Russell Wilson has never gotten a vote for MVP. First place vote for MVP ever. Shocking. Anyway, I'm going to take Seattle in this game. Seattle +1.5. What do we got here? Rick's got the Rams. Tough pick, I'll tell you. Billy's got the Seahawks. Well, we know Billy's second home. Well, I don't know how many homes you have, because you just spent a lot of time in Seattle with your son, and you spent a lot of time in Colorado. I'm not sure why. Maybe you're picking up some stuff based on your interactions in this chat room on Sunday mornings. That could explain a lot of things, actually, now that I think about it. Who'd I miss? Drew. Where's Drew's pick? Seahawks. I'm just kidding you, Bill. I love to bust your chops. 6 late games today, huh? Jeez. Chargers at the Dolphins. Another interesting game. Another nice matchup of young quarterbacks that I talked about earlier in the show. Tua and Herbert. both playing really good football. Herbert has deserved better than he's gotten record-wise. He's played very well. But with this game at home, it's a funny 4:00 game for me, this game. It's an advantage for the Chargers not having to play at 1:00, obviously coming east. But I'm going to stick with the Dolphins here. Minus 2.5, if I didn't say that, Billy. 2.5. Good point about the Masters, Bill. A lot of late games because of the Masters. Somehow, well, not somehow. I was going to talk about the Masters, and I guess I will here real quick. Let me get your guys' picks down here. London, Colorado, Jacksonville, Seattle. Yeah, that's what I thought. Chargers for Drew. Rick's got the Dolphins. And Billy. Billy, give me your pick, Bill. While I'm waiting for Billy's pick, let me talk about the Masters a little bit. It's so funny. Masters is one of my favorite sporting events of the year. I'm a golfer. I love golf. I love the major championships. I have not been able to get into this Masters at all. The fact that it's normally played the first weekend in April, and we're playing it in middle of November. The course is playing totally different. Dustin Johnson is 16 under, I think. Hold on. 16 under through 3 rounds. The course isn't playing anything like it normally plays. And it's just not a lot of fun. I have not had a lot of fun watching this Masters. Today, they're and all week long, I think, because obviously you have much less daylight than you would have in April. They've had to play start guys on the 1st and the 9th tees, and I don't like that. Those guys don't get that, especially on the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday especially. They don't get that walk up the 18th hole, all of them, with the fan and no fans. The azaleas aren't in bloom. The course looks so much different. Looks like any other course right now, and it's playing like any other course to these guys. And I that's one of the things I like about the majors is that they don't shoot, 20 under par for the tournament. They struggle. I like to watch guys of these calibers struggle and play great golf courses. And the course is not set up to be a great golf course right now. They need to lengthen it anyway, by the way. So anyway, I digress because Billy mentioned the fact that there's so many late games because of the Masters. And Masters will be finishing up at 4:00, and that's why they're playing. They're starting on both the 1st and the 10th hole. Do I have a television on every wall? No, I don't. When I can't be out on a Sunday, like I like to be with my boys, which we have not been able to do this year, obviously, where we can watch all the games. I'll set up my computer, watch a game on there, watch a game on the TV. I might have the golf on my phone. So that's kind of how I keep up. Billy took the Dolphins, by the way. So sorry for that little digression into the Masters, but I wanted to touch on it anyway. So I guess that's going to be it. I would have talked more about it normally. I had a quick vlog about the Masters before the tournament started. I picked Rory McIlroy, so you can see how my season continues to go along. The picks in golf are no better than my picks in football. Moving on, 4:25 on Fox. Bengals at the Steelers. At first glance, and the Steelers are a 6.5-point favorite, Billy. 6.5-point favorite. Big Ben is playing. That line may go up today, by the way. So if you like the Steelers, this is probably going to be a generous game. And if I can get the Steelers, hang on a second. I'll tell you if the line went up. Because I can't get to it quick enough. If I can get to it quick, I'll tell you. Ah, crap. Never mind. Thought I could do it quick. I was looking for cigar box odds. See how quickly they download. Anyway, we're playing the Steelers at 6.5. Big Ben playing. You know, the Bengals have played better, but going on the road here, you know, Big Ben being back, probably very happy that he is. Game went up a point. So we're going to play it at 6.5 because I want to be consistent with what we've done all year. I'm on the Steelers all the way. Probably going to be one of my bets today. Drew's on the Steelers. Billy on the Bengals. And Rick's on the Steelers. Should be a good football game. Moving on. Oh, what happened here? Buccaneers at the Panthers. The Bucs are -5 on the road. As I talked about last week, a lot of road favorites this year in football, more than I can remember. In college, same way. But here we got the improving Carolina Panthers, losing some tough games. Teddy Bridgewater's played pretty well. McCaffrey's back. Their running game is really, really good. They got Robbie Anderson, the ex-Jet, Billy, who's played really good football, along with DJ Moore. McCaffrey's out, it looks like, possibly today. I forgot about that. He hurt his shoulder near the end of the game last week. They're such a better team with him playing. It's going to be interesting. The Buccaneers have struggled the last few weeks. They got beat badly last week by Tampa Bay. They almost got beat by the Giants the week before. So this is a tough spot. It's a tough pick, I think, given 5 on the road. I have been wrong whenever I picked the Bucs. I think I bet them once and they won. But every other, I think in this picking arena, I've done very poorly with Bucs games, and I'm gonna take Tampa Bay today. I'm not picking against Tommy today. -5, Tampa Bay. Yeah, he is out for sure. Drew says McCaffrey. So who we got here? Drew's got the Bucs. Billy's got the Panthers. You know, I've been very bold with these picks all year, and it's got me nowhere. Rick's got the Bucs. All right. My game of the day. Ravens at the Patriots. Ravens 7-point favorites on the road. You guys know who I'm picking. Again, both teams are coming off wins. The Ravens did struggle a bit on offense last week. Lamar Jackson has struggled against good defenses throwing the football this year, at least more than he did last year. Their defense is playing okay. They're 6-2, so again, their record says they're a good team. The Antonio Hex, I missed that comment, Billy. The Antonio Hex for the Bucs is why Billy's taking the Panthers. Hey, listen, he's already done better than he did with the Patriots last year. This will be his second game. He only made it one game last year, and he didn't get paid a nickel. What a knucklehead. You know, again, some of these guys loaded with talent, like Antonio Brown, just kill me. They kill me. They're knuckleheads. It's possible that, you know, the Baltimore has been exposed a bit the last couple of weeks, and Lamar Jackson, maybe the league's catching up with Lamar Jackson a little bit, because while he's still this great threat, you know, running the football, he doesn't have the passing prowess of some of these other guys who can run, like Kyle Murray, like Russell Wilson, like Patrick Mahomes to a lesser extent. He just doesn't, you know, when they have to throw the football, he gets exposed. So the Patriots need to get off to a good start here tonight, but I'll be on the Patriots. +7. I will not be betting them. Billy's got the Ravens. Drew's got the Ravens. Rick's got the Ravens. All right, I'll be staying up thinking about you guys tonight. Getting about 4 hours sleep. I hate these 8:30 games, man. Okay, Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Ugh, Las Vegas Raiders. History's no more. The team formerly known as the Redskins, the Las Vegas Raiders. Don't like it. Anyway, the Raiders are 5 at home against the Broncos. Raiders are 5-3. I mean, they beat Kansas City. They got blown out by Tampa Bay. They beat Cleveland. They're not a perfect team for sure. The Broncos have struggled at times, but they've played better recently. I'm going to be on the Raiders here. -5. Right here, -5. What else we got? Drew's got the Raiders. I'm horrible with change, Bill. Horrible. Billy says I need to accept change better. Billy's who you got here, Bill? Rick's got the Raiders. I need help for my inability to accept change. I can accept change, positive change. I don't see team playing in Las Vegas and leaving Oakland, when they were supported by some great fans for years, and they leave for a second time in 30 years. And come on. Anyway, game's all about money. Billy, give me a pick. Oh, Raiders. Sorry. All right. Houston Texans at the Cleveland Browns. Browns -3. I got to tell you something. This looks like a value pick to me as well. I think my bets today may be the Steelers and the Browns. I'm not sure yet. I got 2 picks. I got 2 picks left in the cigar box. Nick Chubb was practicing this week, and he may go for the Browns. The Texans have played a little bit better since they fired Bill O'Brien. I don't know. This is, Cleveland is so up and down. I'm going to be on the Browns here, -3. They're enigma. I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but I'm going to be on them. Drew's on the Texans. Points? Gave you the points. Seriously, do you bring that stuff back from Colorado with you, or you grow your own? Browns -3. Value pick. Rick's got the Browns. 3 points. Drew. Don't be going down to Billy Pulver or pick my own spread line. I can go to 10 different sites and get 10 different lines. Billy's got the Browns. All right, guys, we're making headway here. I got a guy coming to pick up a free Christmas tree at 11:30. Bought a new tree. Get some good Christmas karma and give away the old one. Is in great shape. Okay. 49ers at the Saints. The Saints are 9.5-point favorites at home. Mostert might come off the injury reserve to play today. Possibly. Don't know. Haven't seen. You guys may have seen it when I go on the air. Sometimes I miss the inactives, by this time of the morning. So if somebody knows something, they can certainly speak up or keep it for their own What am I looking at? Well, it depends, Bill. All the points could differ if you're using a different site. I use the same site every week, so it's my show. Get a big head, I'm becoming a veteran at this. What else did I miss? Name, game, and say points. Oh my gosh, how many times? What do you listen to? One more time. 49ers at the Saints. Saints minus 9.5. The delay may be causing some of this problem, Bill, plus your medical situation. La 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 la. Where are we here? I gotta find the picks. Saints. I didn't make a pick, did I? Sorry about that. I'm on the Saints. Minus 9.5, Billy. Billy took the Saints, right? Drew, I gotta find your pick amongst the chaos. Saints. That's at 425. All these good games at 425, man. It's going to be tough. I got to see what the TV games are. See, that's the other thing with not being able to get out and watch the games. Not that we would do it at the 4:30 games, but 1 o'clock games, there's, we don't get to see them all. I won't pay for the ticket. Jacksonville at Green Bay. Billy. Jacksonville at Green Bay. Moster's not playing. Thank you, Drew. Solidifies our Saints picks, I guess. Jaguars at Green Bay. Billy. Packers minus 12.5. Again, that's a lot of points. Jaguars stink. No quarterback, no anything. I cannot believe the Packers aren't going to win this game by about 21. Packers minus 12.5. Wrote it down as 125. Nah, I won't do the ticket. I go up to Mark's house when the Patriots aren't on. We watch there. We steal Mike Del Costello's ticket login, and we watch the game there. Packers for Drew. Billy's got the Packers. We all got the Packers. We got 2 straight games now. Everybody's on the same team. The team formerly known as the Redskins at the Lions, minus 3.5. Bill Pulver. Redskins at the Lions. Guys, this is a must-win for Matt Patricia. The Redskins, and I'm scared for Alex Smith, to be honest with you, back after this horrible injury he suffered a few years back. Kyle Allen suffered his own gruesome injury last week. So Alex Smith is back as the starter. 17 surgeries he had on his right leg. Dwayne Haskins is blown up. His career is probably over in Washington. If he's ever going to make it, he's going to make it somewhere else. The Giants, the Giants have played tough, make too many mistakes. Danny, are we calling him Danny Nickel or Danny Petty now, Billy? They're both 2-6, I think, or maybe the Giants are 2-7. Wait a minute, I'm all screwed up here. How did I get the Giants? I skipped games here. I moved on to the next game. The Lions are playing the Packers. Boy, oh boy, boy. Hold on, guys. Let me back up. Billy, I need some of that stuff pretty clear in my head. Redskins, formerly known as, against the Lions. I'm going to take the Lions here. Stafford's been able to practice a little bit more, I think. Smith hasn't started in 2 years. Redskins have played some surprisingly decent football for a 2-16, but I'm going to take the Lions. Oops, I wrote it down on Billy's. Lions minus 3.5. I had a brain spasm. I thought I had a stroke for a minute. Billy's on the Lions. Rick's on the Lions. Drew breaks the streak of us all picking the same game and takes the Redskins, the former Redskins, I'm sorry. Another 1:00 game. The Eagles at the Giants. The Eagles 3.5-point favorites on the road. I don't know how anybody can be favored on these road games in the NFC East. Excuse me. So I got to back up, Billy. What are we calling Danny Dimes now? Danny Nickel, Danny Penny? The Giants have played game football most of the year. 2-7 they are. Eagles are 3-4-1. They lead the division by default, just because somebody has to. Jesus, I mean, they're both mistake-filled teams here, and the coaching on the Philly side, I liked Peterson for a long while, and the last 2 years his play calling has been very odd to me. I'm going to take the Giants here. It's hard for me to pick the Giants, but I'm going to take the Giants at home just because they're getting 3.5 points. Danny Diaper. Maybe. I like Danny Diaper, Bill. Rex on the Eagles. Drew's strategy is never to take a New Jersey team. It's probably a good strategy, which I will waver from today. My face is starting to go white. The sun came out and screwed up my lighting. Apologize, guys. Looks like I'm wearing pancake. Better when I back up. Who may I miss? Billy, where's your pick? Billy. Back it up. Don't have your pick yet, Bill. We got one game to go. Stay with me. Are you picking Danny Diaper? I'm going to move on. Wait for your pick. Monday night. Giants for Billy. The Monday night special. The Rick Sherlock big game. Vikings on, I think, a 3-game winning streak here. They've struggled a lot on the road against teams with winning records in Mike Zimmer's 6 seasons. The Bears are struggling against everybody. Nick Foles has been ineffective or brilliant. You know, I'm not a big Nick Foles fan, as you know, if you listen to me enough. I think Nick Foles will make a ton of money off of a couple of short stretches of success. One of them ending with the Patriots, beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Another one when Chip Kelly was a coach and he came in after Michael Vick got hurt. I don't like Nick Foles as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I like the Vikings here. I think, as I said earlier, the Vikings are starting to get together. Dalvin Cook has gotten healthy and played really well. And the team's played well in 5 of their last 6 games. And the Bears make it too hard to think that they're going anywhere. So I like the Vikings kind of a lot here. 2.5. I might have to save a pick for tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll only take one game in the cigar box Sunday afternoon. Who we got? Vikings for Drew. I know what Rick's got. Vikings. And Billy has the Bears to hammer the Vikings and put a nail in their coffin. Hammered. Oh, I get it, Bill. Hammer and nail. The rivalry game, hammer and nail. Oh, that's tough. Don't be stealing my. Yes, 2.5. 2.5 points, Bill. I'm still trying to figure out a way that I can post the thing. I tried this week a couple times when I had a little time to play around with the broadcast room here and didn't really come up with a way to do it. So anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging in with me and picking the games with me. We are gonna, who knows when it's safe. Everybody feels safe to get together. The four of us that have made fairly consistent picks, or been fairly consistently making picks, I should say. We'll get together and I'll pay off those beer bets when it's safe for us to get together. And you guys are all comfortable doing so and able to do so. Billy's not in London or Jacksonville or Seattle or picking up his stash in Colorado. Drew's not hobbling around. Hopefully your leg's feeling better. I hope, Drew, by the way. Yeah, maybe I will do that, Drew. The site that I use and do my picks or do my research on kind of jumps around a little bit. So I may switch that up and go 1 o'clock to Monday night. So COVID is oh gosh. All right. Guys, we've had a good week. I appreciate you guys being here with me. I appreciate everybody that pops in and out during the morning. And I know there's a bunch of you that don't necessarily speak up, but you do watch. And later on, we'll, once I share this, and we still get, even though I don't have any scintillating guests today, it's just me and my stream of consciousness and talking with you guys and bantering back and forth. I enjoy it. People seem to enjoy it. We still get 400, 500, 600 views of this show. Not as good as the interview shows where I might get 3,000 or 4,000. I reposted my Greg Pryor interview from earlier it was like my second interview. Oh, Drew's got a question here, which I'll touch on in a second. I reposted my Greg Pryor interview and shared it to a few new baseball sites, classic baseball sites that I joined. And I'm that's getting close to 6,000 views now. So I'm going to be, as I said before, I'm going to be reposting and sharing some of these interviews that I did early on with Greg Pryor, with Mark Littell, the ones that, don't really have a timeliness to them. We weren't talking about, I can't really post my Mike Vaccaro and Kevin Kernan interviews because we were talking about situations that were happening at the time and it probably wouldn't hold up. But the interviews with some of the athletes I've had, I can talk about, I can repost that because we're just talking about their careers. And we talked a little bit about the game today, but I'm going to be reposting some of those, and they're a lot of fun. So if you haven't seen them, I had some great interviews, and we got some great guests coming up. Rex Walters next week, who's an assistant coach at Wake Forest, has been an NCAA head coach at San Francisco and Florida Atlantic in the past, was one of the great guards in Kansas Jayhawks history in the 90s, first round draft pick by the Nets. He'll be my guest next week. Following that, I have Larry Farmer, and if you're a college football fan or college basketball fan like I am, and was even more back in the 70s and 80s when it was really starting to just March Madness was coming a big thing. Larry Farmer played with Bill Walton at UCLA, and he was one of the coaches that followed John Wooden a couple steps past Gene Bartow and Cunningham and a few of the other guys that came after Wooden. Might have been the third guy after him, third or fourth. But we're going to have Larry Farmer on the 27th, and we're going to talk about his career at UCLA, which I think it should be a fascinating conversation. He went on to coach Loyola of Chicago and some other teams, and he just finished up his career as an assistant coach, and he's writing a new book. So let me go back here a little bit. So those will be coming up soon, and we got some good stuff in December as well. I got one date left in December to fill. Drew asked what I think about the hiring of the Sox hiring Cora back, the rehiring. I don't know. I don't have necessarily a problem with it. I don't have a problem that Hinch got a job with the Tigers either. Again, they weren't the guys. Well, Cora was more heavily involved than Hinch, actually. I just think, they got suspended for the time they got suspended. The Red Sox maybe are a bit hypocritical. Maybe you shouldn't have fired him. Maybe you should have just suspended him for the year if you knew you were going to hire him back in a year. I'm not shocked they did this. I mean, I thought there was always a chance Hinch was going to come back to the Astros, but I think that one was a little too close to home, happening right there. So there was less chance of that. I'm not shocked that the Red Sox brought Cora back, and I really don't have a problem with it. It's baseball. I think Carlos Beltran is the guy who makes out the worst in this because he's probably never going to get another shot. Got hired by the Mets, as I know Drew would know, and some of you others of you might. See you later, Bill. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to be signing off here in a second. I just want to touch on Drew's question. And I missed a question here. Sorry. So I'm not shocked by this rehiring. I think the guy, like I said, who's never going to get another chance, and it might be a shame, is Carlos Beltran, because I think he had the makings of a really good major league manager, and I just don't think he's ever going to get another shot. We'll see. We'll see, guys. It's been fun. It's been fun as always. I enjoy chatting with you guys on this couple hours, sometimes hour and a half. On a Sunday morning, there's nothing else to do. The weather stinks. I like having you with me. Join me Friday, 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. Eastern time with Rex Walters. We'll be here next Sunday at 9 a.m. to review all the college football and NFL. And I'll see you later, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk. Have a great Sunday afternoon. Enjoy the NFL. Out.